Class number 52. Class 52, the procession to Golgotha. Taken from Matthew 27, Mark 15, Luke 23, and John 19. Those condemned to crucifixion had to carry their crosses to the place of execution. But the Lord was so exhausted by the terrible tortures that he was unable to carry his cross. So the soldiers captured on the way a certain Simon from Cyrenaea and forced him to bear the cross of the Lord. Many people followed him, and women who sympathized with him wept for him. The Lord addressed them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep for yourself and for your children." It was said about the terrible punishment that would befall the Jews in 70 AD. For if people do such things when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry? It meant if he, an innocent, was not given mercy, then what will happen to the guilty people? Now the crucifixion. Matthew 27, Mark 15, Luke 23, John 19. The Lord and two robbers were brought to a place called Golgotha, which means skull, and they were crucified. Golgotha was a small, bald hill near Jerusalem. According to an ancient legend, the ancestor Adam was buried at that place. When Jesus was brought there, they gave him to drink sour wine mixed with vinegar. This drink dulls the feeling, and it was given to reduce the torments of the criminals. But the Lord didn't drink it, wanting to endure the suffering in full consciousness. According to St. Mark, Christ was crucified at the 3rd hour, 9 a.m. our time. But St. John says that the end of Pilate's trial was only at the 6th hour. It can be explained. The Jews divided the day into 4 parts, 3 hours in each, called according to the last hour of each part. So if Pilate pronounced his final sentence around 9 a.m., then St. John could have said that it was the beginning of the 6th hour, for example, the 2nd quarter of the day. And St. Mark could say that it was the end of the 3rd hour. And they crucified him. The body of the crucified man hung helplessly in terrible convulsions, the muscles cramped, the ulcers from the nails were torn under the weight of the body. The sun and thirst added sufferings which were so great and also prolonged, sometimes 3 days, that this execution was applied only to the greatest criminals and was considered the most terrible and shameful of all types of execution. In order to prevent the hands from being torn from wounds, a crossbar was sometimes made under the feet to stand on it. On the upper end of the cross, a plate was nailed with the inscription of the guilt of the crucified. Pilate ordered to write, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." He did it to the shame of the Sanhedrin, who accused the Lord of having appropriated the royal dignity. The Jews crucified their king, for everyone could read this inscription. It was made even in 3 languages: Hebrew, the local language, Greek, the most common, and Roman, the language of the rulers. The Jewish leaders demanded that Pilate change the inscription, but he refused. Looking at the Lord crucified, his enemies continued to mock him. They suggested that he performed an obvious miracle and came down from the cross, promising to believe in him in this case. In the midst of his suffering, the Lord did not remain completely silent. He spoke 7 times from the cross. His first words were a prayer for his executioners. His second words honored the prudent robber with heavenly bliss. And his third words entrusted his most pure mother to St. John. Facing the coming death, he exclaimed, my God, why have you forsaken or abandoned me?" In his 5th word was, "I am thirsty." The 6th, "It is finished." And the 7th, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." Now the first words of Jesus, the prayer, is an example for us how not to take revenge on our enemies, but to pray for them. The Lord prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do." None of those soldiers knew that Jesus was the Son of God. The Jews who condemned the Lord to death were also misled by their leaders and blinded in their anger. St. Peter told them, "We know that you have done this out of ignorance," in Acts chapter 1, verse 16. God gave them more than 30 years for repentance. However, the majority of them did not accept Christ, and when the Romans came to punish them for the uprising, God did not protect them. The Lord was crucified between 2 robbers. One of them, following the crowd, was blaspheming him, but the other one admonished his companion. He was impressed by what was happening and believed that Jesus was not a simple man. So he turned to him with penitent words. "Remember me, O Lord, when you come into your kingdom." These words became an example of deep repentance and entered into liturgical use. This amazing confession testified to the faith of the prudent robber, which was beyond the power of even the closest disciples of the Lord. And it was earned the highest reward. The Lord said to him, "Today you will be with me in paradise." So he was the first man who entered paradise, opened by Christ after his death. Meanwhile, there were some of his closest people near the cross: his mother, her sister Mary of Cleopas, Mary Magdalene, and his beloved disciple, as St. John calls himself. With the departure of Christ from this world, his most pure mother was left alone, and there was no one to take care of her. Therefore, with the words, "Woman, this is your son," and to John, "This is your mother," the Lord entrusted his most pure mother to his beloved disciple. And from that time until her death, she lived with St. John. This is the proof, by the way, that she was ever virgin and did not have other children who might take care of her. The Roman law gave the clothes of the crucified to the soldiers who carried out the execution. The soldiers tore the upper garment into 4 parts, but they cast lots for the lower clothing, the chiton. because it was knitted, and if torn, its parts would have no value. Thus, one more prophecy was fulfilled. Psalms 21 verse 19. And they divided my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. This is the end of class number 52.